Good evening and welcome to New London Views. I'm your host, Bryan Doughty. It's been a little while since I've done a live show, but we're back.
Yes.
It's 6 p.m. on the 1st of December, late in the year, one more month to go. And my guest tonight is Miles Daniels.
Yes.
Welcome, Miles.
Appreciate you having me.
Before we start, I just want to say I hope everybody had a great Thanksgiving with their family or alone or however you might have celebrated. And we're moving on in the year. So, Miles,
Yes.
I've got a whole bunch of questions for you.
I'm ready for
but
them.
I'd like to start with when you were younger,
Yep.
and where you grew up, your influences, and then at some point we'll get to what you're doing now
Sounds good.
for our community in New London. And I'm incredibly excited to talk to you. You've always been super energetic. I'm going to try to
Appreciate
keep
it.
up, but we'll see what happens.
I appreciate you, man. So for myself, I'm from New London. I went to Harvard School. I grew up on Reed Street, right downtown New London. I went to Benny Dover Jackson Middle School. I played football for New London Youth Football. I played basketball and rec. I wasn't that best of a baseball player, decent in track. And then in high school, I went to New London High School for 3 years. I actually transferred. I was adopted my senior year. So I actually graduated from East Lyme High School. But all of my younger years was inside of New London, except my senior year, let's say.
So you said you were adopted?
Yes.
And so could you just take me through?
Yeah, so when I hit high school, I was big into football. I played football, and I would say, a lot of the things now that I do that put me in a positive light, unfortunately, when I was younger, I used some of my skill set to do some negative things. So I was involved with gangs, I was involved with violence, and as I started to get older, like about high school, about sophomore year, I started to realize like hurting people, doing negative things is not really the way to go about life. So I started making a transformation. There was a man by the name of Clarence Cooper. He was my math teacher my junior year at New London High School. And I'm in math big time. So he seen something inside of me, and sometimes when you grow up in a certain area and staying around a lot of the same people that you did negative with isn't sometimes the best thing. Sometimes it's best to get away and then come on back when you can bring more to the community. So I was adopted my junior year. This was 2003. I went to East Lyme High School. I lived in Salem, and then I graduated from East Lyme in 2004.
So was there, besides that teacher,
Yeah.
was there a wake-up moment you had or something you had
Yes.
done?
Yeah. Okay, yeah. So when I was young, 10th grade, I was driving a car without my license, and I actually got pulled over. Ended up getting myself arrested. I went over to the courthouse. I'm there. Well, as soon as I'm sitting in there, I realized, like, okay, this isn't the spot I'm supposed to be. And then the prosecutor that I had, he was actually like, hey, he put me behind the scenes, and he was just like, he talked to me for a while, and he was like, I don't even understand why you're here, why you're doing this. You got so much positive. And he literally told me, like, I'm gonna get you out my office now. I'm gonna give you this one thing, and there should be something positive going on. Like, you got too much skills to do this negative stuff, and I never expect to see you in here again. And after that, I just left, and I thought about a lot. I thought about all my mentors and things they said, and I started realizing, like, I think I'm wasting some of my potential with the negative things that I was doing. So I would say that was probably a wake-up moment right there where I really started to change.
Did that judge follow up with you at all, or you
No,
just never saw him again?
I never saw him again. No, he knew my principal.
Well, that's a bad thing.
Yeah, yes. So he knew my coaches. He knew all the people that I looked up to and the people that would hold me in check when I was younger. So that made me a little nervous, and just kind of like, he didn't know me, but I felt he had a love for the community. And even without knowing me, he took a chance for letting me, not putting me in jail, not doing whatever. And I think that's a big reason for it now. Like, I see kids in a similar situation myself, and I just try to create things that can really help them.
Yeah, my guess is that judge probably had seen different Miles.
Yes.
A similar Miles with the same type of story.
Yes.
And maybe tried to help out.
Yes.
At that point. So you went over to East Lyme.
Yeah.
So what was the difference between New London and East Lyme?
Everything. The school was much bigger. The cafeteria was huge. It was just the demographics were a lot different.
That's one thing I was going to get to.
Yeah, the demographics were huge. I lucked out because I played football. So coming into a school playing football, one thing, football is a fall sport, and you actually start before school starts. And then so I was able to make about 100 friends from the football team before the school year started. So I didn't go there kind of lost or anything. I went there. We were a state champion that year, so I went there for football to help out with there, and yeah, it was a positive experience.
So going from New London to East Lyme, did your friends in New London look down at you?
No, they didn't. Actually, I would say my friends, a lot of right now, and all the people that know from my age group, there's a lot of people from East Lyme and New London that actually hang together. And I would say a lot of my friends, all my closest friends when I was in New London now are cool and good friends with the people in East Lyme. So it kind of my high school football coach would always tell me that you kind of help bridge the gap between East Lyme and New London and getting people together. I don't know if that's true or not, but
It's nice to hear.
Yeah, it was nothing negative though. It was very positive.
So the demographics are all obviously different now. They're obviously different then.
Yes.
So I would say much darker variety in New London
Yes.
versus East Lyme, where it's more white.
Yeah, very. Yeah, very much so. So I would say, like, for just to put it in football, my New London football team, we probably for minorities, non-Caucasian was probably 80%, and then playing on East Lyme, I would say the minorities was probably, let me see, I can count those on one side, but probably like 3%.
Sure.
Yeah, so it was a big difference, but I would say they accepted us though. So it was a different scenario, but it helped me for a lot of things that I do now, putting myself in that uncomfortable situation.
And did you play New London?
Yes, we did.
And
Yep.
how'd you do, Miles?
21-0. 21-0. We won. Yeah, it was a good game. Mike, all my people's out there, I love y'all, but it was a good game. We were overwhelming though, so there was a down year for them and it was an up year for us. So
Well, congratulations to Miles. Bad for New London, but that's okay.
yeah, still love all y'all, man.
So then, what happened after high school? Where'd you go?
So after
What'd
high
you do?
school, I first went to Southern Connecticut. I used to think like football was my main thing I started playing football when I was 12. For all my people that might be watching, the Four Horsemen, all my guys back in the youth football days, and I thought football was everything. And then I went to Southern, mainly just football, not even thinking about school, like just football.
Were you gonna play football? at
Yeah,
Southern?
I played football at Southern, and then so I went through the first season. It was cool. The first day of spring ball, I broke every metacarpal in my hand. So I got my hand stuck in somebody's helmet, shattered every bone. At that point, I'm sitting out, and then when you're sitting out watching, you really start to think like, okay, why am I actually here? And then when I'm not playing football, I'm like, I didn't go there for the academics. There wasn't an actual academic program I wanted to do there. I just went there because, this is the highest level of football I could play at. So I went there for that. And then 2 years in there, I started to realize like, there's nothing here that I want to do. I originally see myself, I want to get into recreation. I wanted to be into recreation. And so therefore, after my sophomore year, I kind of sat down, thought about some things. I looked up what are the top recreation schools in the nation. Springfield College was in our area, and they were a top 5 recreation school in the nation. So I decided to transfer over there.
So tell me what recreation is.
So recreation management, so that would be kind of running parks and recs and facilities, doing sports, community events, just kind of being the person to help socialize and provide recreation events for your community.
And did you finish at Southern Connecticut? Or?
No, I did 2 years at Southern. I finished at Springfield College in 2009. So I got a bachelor's degree in recreation management.
Awesome. And then what happened after that? It took you a long time to get through
Yeah,
college.
so the one thing
Let me ask you what happened, Miles.
Yeah, so the one thing I went to public school first and transferred private. If anybody out there, if you're gonna do that, they're gonna take all your credits away. I lost a whole year of school by going from public to private, so I had to go to college for 5 years. I went to Springfield. I wasn't gonna play football, but they kind of tracked me down and I ended up playing. I enjoyed my time there. Graduated from there in 2009. From Springfield, Norwich Public Schools actually took me in to be a coordinator for their after-school programs that they have going on.
Yeah, I think it's important to note with myself, I've got 2 kids in college.
Yeah.
They don't always take those credits you're promised.
Yeah.
Or sometimes they make you take other classes because you have those credits, so
Yeah.
you're still out of the money. It's a great idea, but
I would have did it. I would have probably, looking back, went straight to Springfield from the beginning and saved myself probably like $50,000.
well, we all make mistakes. Life goes on.
Yes.
So you graduated from Springfield.
Yep, 2009.
And then you started working at Norwich Free Academy, I think you said?
No, Norwich Public Schools.
Public schools.
Greenville Elementary School, I was the coordinator of the after-school program. I helped start up the whole sports thing in the Bridges and after-school programs in Norwich. So I was there for about 4 years. And then from there, I was fortunate enough to get an opportunity at St. Thomas More. One of the guys that I used to play football with, he's actually a board member for our nonprofit now, Lou Allen, the third, my bad. Lou Allen the third, who's on our board.
Don't shortchange him.
Yeah, I know, my apologies. So he was the athletic director there, and he known kind of how we played together. He known how I coach sports, so he brought me on as a volunteer coach for football. I coached there volunteering for a year. They loved me in the school. I also have a math background, and one thing I'm gonna take a step back. I got a recreation degree but in recreation, there's literally one position per town as far as being a director. And the one unfortunate thing is a lot of times our directors stay in there. It's a good job, so they stay there for 40, 50 years. So I started seeing the writing on the wall that I might not ever get into my community in that position. So therefore, education was the next best thing that I can help our community. So I took that on and I went on to St. Thomas More, accepted a full-time job teaching Algebra 2 and mathematics, and then also coaching basketball and coaching football and coaching track over there.
That's all?
Yeah. So they helped me out a lot. Yeah, like I'm still very close with them, and that's kind of where my education first really got started, being teaching.
And how long were you there?
I was there for 4 years.
4 years?
Yeah.
You did all those things, or did you switch around?
No, I did all those. So I was the defensive coordinator for football. I started off my first year there as the head varsity basketball coach for JV basketball. At the end of the season, my JV team beat the varsity, so they were fortunate enough to make me the varsity coach. So then I coached varsity basketball for 3 years. I was the head coach for track, and I was the defensive coordinator and assistant coach for football. And while also teaching Algebra 2 and opening up the gym. I'm a big, exercise person, so I get all the kids. I believe, sports and education should kind of be intertwined. So I also opened up the gym every day at 5 o'clock for the kids to work out in.
So why should sports and education be intertwined?
I think because I think sports teaches us the life lessons that's needed to be successful, but I also think that sports is only going to last so long. And if we're teaching all these kids, like the way I look at it now, 1% of the world or less gets paid to do the sport. So in actuality, if we're putting everything on the sports side and not drilling education in their head, we're doing a lot of them kids a disservice, because 99% of our team is not going to get paid. So if we're not drilling education in their head, I think we do them a disservice. So I just think as adults, we need to combine those together, because the youth don't understand how important education is. And a lot of times, especially in our community, a lot of people I see, they don't realize how important education is until it's too late and they do something on the wrong side. And then once you already go down that wrong path, if you taking one step back, you got to take 20 steps forward just to get to the same spot you were. So that's why I think education should be involved in sports at a young age, so these kids understand that. And then when this dream does end, because if we're taking 100 kids and less than 1% of them make it, a half of one might go. So 99% of them is going to end. And if they're mentally not prepared, that knowing that this eventually is going to end and they need to do something else, they tend to go off the deep end. And that's where we get a lot of people in the gangs and a lot of people selling drugs and all of that stuff.
Yeah, and I don't disagree with you at all. I played baseball. I love it. It was great. But you also have to realize, if you take those 100 kids, there's going to be one that succeeds.
Yeah.
And they might not even get to get paid.
Yes.
They may just go on to college or something else. But there's so few that actually succeed. And then too, to be a professional anything, the amount of work you have to put in, I'm going to guess 99 of those 100 aren't willing to do it.
No, nope.
And it's such a challenge. So I do think, to a degree, I love youth sports. We do a disservice by not accentuating. I'm on the board of ed, so I want to talk about education.
Yes, definitely.
But we do a disservice to our whole society, and music too. I mean, musician, where there's not that many musicians who get paid. It's a small amount. And focusing on education while doing all the other things, so we're well-rounded, is key. With my own kids, we used to trick them into going to places to learn, even though it was fun.
Yes.
And maybe you do that in football or whatever.
Yes.
You can teach through sports.
Yes.
So, you mentioned you coached basketball when you're in around 2009. So what was your philosophy about coaching and teaching and all that other?
So it's all about first off, we come together, we are together. I don't believe in excuses for anything in life. So if I do something wrong, I can't, say you invited me to the show at 6 o'clock. If something happened with me and I showed up at 6:15, I couldn't come in here and blame it on you. That would be something on me. So from a young age, I like to teach people there is no excuses, because a lot of these kids think they can make a mistake and, that person did that, or it's that person's fault and it's okay. So I first believe taking the excuses out. And then I believe that I don't judge the person off their ability. I judge them off of what they got inside of them, really, or what I say is in basketball, what you got inside your chest, what kind of heart do you really have? And then that heart kind of gives you're not afraid to kind of succeed, but then also having that heart, what you have inside of here, can you control that fire that you got inside your heart in order to make sure that it not only benefits you, but it benefits everybody else around you? So a good thing with the team is, I always say, we're only as strong as our weakest link, and I don't believe in coaching weak links. So everybody got to rise up to the level. And even if the lessons that we teach in sports of getting there early all the time, working hard, if you don't make it in sports, I make sure all my players know these same values I taught you, take them to the workforce. You get a job, you start at 7, show up there at 5:45 doing the stuff. If you're at the bottom level, learn everybody's job ahead of you. Always know the person's job above, know the job below, know everybody's stuff. You'll be shocked at hard work, how far it can get you inside of an organization.
It's interesting too. You said success, but there's always failures. And from your vantage point, how you helped kids deal with failures, Even just a loss.
Yeah, I would say more like, I always say, only way you take a loss is if you don't learn from that loss. So we don't even, like, we lose. I've lost many games. But when I take that loss, if I'm defeated and I say, you know what? Oh man, I just sucked. That group was better than me. Then I really lost. But if I look at things that we've done, could have done a little better, and we go correct those, that was just a learning opportunity. So I don't believe in taking losses in life, no matter what it happens to be. I believe in learning in every situation. And then the minute that I'm no longer learning, I shouldn't be in a competitive situation or be in a leadership role, because I believe all leaders shouldn't look at L's as losses, but more as learning lessons. And I try to teach that to all the kids also.
Well, and I think you may agree too. As an adult, I think I learned more from kids.
Oh yes.
They don't know their teachers, but
no, we learn more from them than they do from us all the time, and they don't even realize that. And like and with coaching, yeah, I learn a lot from the kids, a lot. Yes.
I think it's probably because they're honest.
Yes. Especially the young ones. You go to the elementary school, like, yeah, they ain't hold nothing back, man. No. They can tell you straight up like what it is.
You're terrible. Okay.
Yeah, yes. And it's not even coming from a bad place with them. That's why it's good. It's just honesty. It's not even with adults, you get like, you don't like me for a certain reason. That's why you're saying that. But with the kids, it's like, no, they're just being 100% honest. They don't see colors. They don't see anything of that. They just keep it real.
Just go for it.
Yes.
So you were there until 2009, or did you start in 2009?
So I started in 2000. So I got out of school in 2009. Then I started 2010.
Okay.
So
and you were there for 4 years, I think.
Yeah, 4 years, and then from there, so I bounced around. So I was there for 5 years total, but I did 4, and then I left. So with my recreation job, I got offered a position in Killingly as a recreation supervisor. I went to work for Killingly, and it was good and all, but just that. It wasn't the community that I really wanted to help, so I was there.
Is it very different demographics
yes,
again?
Very, very different demographics.
From New London
yes,
versus East Lyme.
Very different demographics. I was more of admin there. So like I know the admin side, but I don't feel that's where I'm best at. So I was more in the office. I didn't get to interact a lot with the community.
Miles, you do have a personality, as I'm sure people can hear now. So, I'm not sure admin is the best place for you, but that's just my opinion.
So they didn't let me do all that. So I enjoyed the job there. The people there are fantastic. But I had stayed there for about 7-8 months, and then I ended up leaving to go to the Metropolitan Learning Center in Bloomfield. Okay. How I ended up there, not really sure, truthfully. Now, I live in New London, so it's 45 minutes away. They liked me through basketball. I went in for basketball. They wanted to bring me in for that, but I couldn't just drive to Bloomfield for basketball and back to New London. It wouldn't work. So they liked me enough to then they offered me a math position inside of the school. So I came in kind of mid-year, so I work with the geometry students, I work with the Algebra 2 students, and I work with the algebra students, kind of as not a math interventionist, but more trying to help get the kids up to Common Core level where they need to be. So I had a caseload of kids, about 50 kids that I would go through each day, pull out of the class, work individually with them. It was a great time. I actually loved that school. Bloomfield is a very similar demographic to New London. So I was working with an area where I was involved with the kids. I was involved with the city helping out. That drive was rough, and I'm so committed to New London, I couldn't just say, you know what, I'm gonna pack my bags and move to Bloomfield and do it there. I'm more of a type that I love the community of New London, so if I can't get in the front door doing something, then I'm gonna create my own way through the back door and make sure that I'm involved in this community. So that's why I left Bloomfield and then came back to New London.
And so did you do something in New London?
So the crazy thing with all this is my jobs in New London are far and few between. As far as like working in the school system, I applied for many jobs. I applied even this year. I get turned down from a lot of them. So I applied for a lot. I didn't get them. So when I left Bloomfield, I actually came back and I was doing independent. So this is right around the time when I started doing my nonprofit stuff. And I was just picking up I was a behavior interventionist in Norwich. I'm a DJ. I just doing little random things. Like I trade stocks. So I just was doing a bunch of little stuff just to keep myself ahead. All kind of knowing like, I'm a person that like I knew where I wanted to be in my future. I knew what I wanted to do. And I knew like, I always believe like, it's not a matter of if, it's just when. So I just needed to sustain myself, sustain my family until we can get our center up and get to a spot to where we can make it full-time work. And we're slowly creeping out on that now.
So you mentioned your center.
Yes.
So this is where I met Miles for the first time. We're at a community meeting, and I think you had asked to meet with me. And I think we drank a couple beers.
Oh yeah. Definitely
Something
a good
like
time.
that.
Yes, you got dinner. It was good.
Yeah, and I got to talking to Miles about what he'd like to do. And first of all, I was super impressed at the time. But one of the struggles I think in New London and probably other places is people have grand ideas, and they get frustrated, and I don't think they get shut down, but they just die. But the ideas go away, and you haven't. I don't want you to go away, by the way.
No, I'm not. I'm one of the ones. I'm gonna keep pushing at this. Like, we realized like we've had our struggles, so not to say that it's been hard, but I'm not gonna quit at it. And I think now, kind of what we're learning here is, with our organization, a lot of time, and when you come from urban areas, like there's a pastor, Pastor Joe, he's out in Joe P. in Oakdale. He has a church, but he told me like a lot of people, especially from urban areas, they don't understand how the game is played, and a lot of people don't want to teach them how it's played, so they want to keep you on the outside. And by what that meaning is, like with nonprofits, you got to get grants or get support in order to survive, because when you work with the demographic of people that don't have a lot of funds, like I teach financial literacy, if I'm trying to teach a community how to get their funds together, I would be a hypocrite if I was also taking money out of their pocket at the same time. So like in this world, you got to know about the grants, you got to know about fundraising, and we like on the other side, I never really paid much mind to that. And then I started actually looking at the grants, looking at all this stuff from the state, and realizing like, hey, I'm gonna take a shot. And actually, you know what? I think this 501c3 thing. It's like when you first go to get a nonprofit, you got two choices. You can do your 1023 or you can do your 1023 easy. Most people do the 1023 easy because it costs less and it's done in 2 days.
And it's easy?
It's easy, yes. But then what they don't realize is a lot of the big corporations that, like when these people donate money to you, it's a tax write-off for them. So if they can't get the tax benefit to write off for you, and if you're a 501c3 easy, you can't take more than $50,000 in a year. So if you take that form, you limit yourself in the future to trying to making it full-time work. So I started studying it. I did the whole 45-page thing. I taught myself to do it. And this April, we actually got our 501c3 status, which was a shock, truthfully. I didn't want it. It was a long process, and we got it.
So I don't think we've said it, but the name?
Community Level Up Incorporated, located at 322 State Street in New London, Connecticut. So we got our 501c3 in April 2001, but I actually
2021.
2021, yes. But I actually incorporated in 2018. We just didn't. I didn't know what a nonprofit was at that point. Like they tell you, you got to incorporate, and I did it. And then I had no way to know how to get money. I didn't know how to do stuff. So we just were kind of stagnant for 2 years. And then right around beginning of the end of 2020 into 2021, my research is studying like, I'm gonna take a step back. One thing I can say for anybody here watching this, if you ever want to learn something, like one thing that I did is I just kind of disappeared for a year. Every single day I got up, I taught myself about grants, I taught myself about stocks. And now I try to help other people out with it though. But like you can really teach yourself anything out there in this world is one thing I realized. There's loads of free resources out there. If you're willing to look hard enough, you can, like what I used to do is, I didn't have enough money before to pay for Audible books. So I would look up what the Audible book would cost that was good. Then I'd go to YouTube and I'd search for it, I'd find it free, listen to it and get all my stuff there. So there's ways you can teach yourself to do things. That's what I was fortunate enough to do. And then we got our 501c3 status in April. And we were then thinking like, okay, our original plan was actually, we were gonna open up 2022, meaning we were planning to open a couple weeks from now. But then there's something called the state of Connecticut put out these grants. Right. There was an expansion grant and there was an innovation grant that went towards COVID learning loss. So we thought, okay, myself and our program director, Tim Allen, we sat down and thought like, is this something we can really do? And we looked at it and we thought, yeah, we think this is.
You guys were just crazy enough to.
Yeah, it was like, there was no belief in it. Like, we didn't have any assistant with grants. The one thing with being a grant writer, somebody else that was different, let me know. I didn't find like a degree where you can go to school to grant write or all that. It's just more of, a lot of the grant writers in the world is what have you done on your resume? What have you gotten? So like, it was hard to find a way because we wanted to be in that world, but we never got anything. So therefore, they would say, hey, you don't have the experience in the resume to be one, and there's no way I can go like take a class to get a degree for it. So we just had to learn, and we put something in, and fortunately, we got the CT expansion grant this summer, and that changed everything with our organization.
Well, first, I applaud you for going through the right process. Because I think in our world today, a lot of people take shortcuts.
Yes.
And then they say, hey, we're going to give you this grant. Where's your 501c3?
Yes, yeah.
And you go, I don't have it.
Yeah.
Well, sorry.
And there's that they can do, yeah.
So I applaud you for that because that opens, as you mentioned, a whole ton of other avenues.
Yes.
Where you can get money, which is important.
Yes, very so, yes.
To continue to work
yes.
and do things for your community. So you've created this program,
yes.
Community Level Up, and I think a lot of it's based on a lot of your background.
Yes.
And a lot of things you've done. I mean, I can see it all kind of tentacles throughout
Yeah.
all this. Is it what you envisioned, or has it changed a lot?
I would say it is what I envisioned, but it also changed a lot. I used to think before, like, I got to do this, I got to do that, I got to be the person doing the admin, I got to do the person doing the program, I got to do that. And then that only got me so far. And then I started, like, our program director, Tim Allen, who helps me with everything that we got going on, I started to realize, like, okay, if I know how to get the money and do these things, if I could just find good people, and if we become more mission oriented, so like we got a goal to do certain things, and then I just empower other people around me to get their ideas in. I use what I'm good at to help them. We can get much bigger. So it all started with me, like the financial literacy that we do is all me. But if you see any of the art stuff, like I'm terrible at music. I can't sing, I can't play an instrument, I can't do any of that. My program director, Tim Allen, he's more on the art side of it though. So I would say it's a kind of a combination of both of our ideas, the art side from him, the business side from myself, that we kind of combine together to kind of get this organization where it is.
One of the things you'd mentioned audiobooks, and you do
Yes.
audio class yourself.
Yes, I have one. Yes, yes.
So tell us about that.
So it's called it started with one of the classes that I taught. So it's an acronym called PLAN, Producing Leaders Around Nation. I got an audiobook, it's about 59 minutes long, and it's designed. I didn't want to make it too long because, like, I myself was never much of a reader. I got more in the audio side. But if my first audio book was 4 hours, I don't know if I ever would have got into it. So I wanted my first audio book that I put out to be kind of geared towards the person similar to my situation, that teen, the young adult, maybe a youth that's more mature, that kind of like isn't into reading, doesn't see why it's important. And this kind of book, and this audio book is designed to show them that. So with this book, the first thing we focus on is the person. So I believe that every kid should have a resume, no matter what the age is, even in school. When I used to be an interventionist, they used to tell us, oh, this kid you gotta have a contract. So you got this contract, you sign this so you don't get in trouble and whatever. Now, I never liked that because in the adult world, if you hear the word contract, there's financial behind it. There's no contract without a financial behind it. So I never understood why we would call the way we want the kids to act a contract of what they'll do. Why not? We put the ball in their court. We kind of we get the kids to tell us who they are. And then as adults, it's our job to kind of create the pathway and foster them to get to where they want to be. So the first part of our plan is creating a resume, creating self-worth within that person. I want the student I want to see what they want to do in the future. They tell me their ideas, they tell me what they want to get to, and then I develop a plan to help them monetize that. And I develop a resume of them that I use it like a contract, but it's a resume in their eyes because it represents them. I really like to do that way first with them because, like, I don't want a lot of kids, like in my situation, when I was younger, if somebody would tell me something like, oh, you shouldn't be doing that, it's just like, oh, you know what? I am going to go do that even more. So it's like, but if I wanted to do something, somebody let me know, like, oh, Miles, you might want to play football, but you understand that you're not going to be able to play in college if you got a D average all the time. Then that makes me change, like, whoa, something that I want, I need to do this to get there. So that's a whole different mindset. So I try to incorporate that in the first part of my book with the kids.
Sounds like you try to empower the kids.
Yes.
To own,
yes.
Back to owning things. And,
yes.
If you screw up, I screwed up.
Yes. Yes. Because.
So with the resumes, do you do it through LinkedIn? You do it?
I do it more. I have my own template. So it's for the middle school kids. I have my own template that's very simple. What do you like to do? What do your friends say you're good at? What do you think you're good at? Let's try to combine that for your future. And then through the older kids, I used to, in that time when I was taking random contract jobs, I worked for the military as a career counselor. Make a long story short, every time somebody would graduate from the Army basic training, I would go there and do a presentation about your social media, and then I would teach you how to write a resume. So I for the older kids, I have more extensive resumes that will help them get jobs. For the younger kids, I just want them more thinking like, okay, I have value in myself. This is who I am. I should be able to show people who I am, and those people that I trust should be able to hold me accountable. So that's the main thing that I utilize it for now.
So a couple of things I'm fascinated about. I don't think our children, kids, young adults,
Yeah.
whatever you want to put it, they don't think about financial stuff